together. Uh,
Whoop,
the
that's my fault. Yep.
That's okay. But the one thing that I will tell you is that it doesn't happen enough. It takes a while to get students motivated to do things, but I'll give you an example. The other night we did this Taylor Swift experience show here, and there's a new student that I have, and her name is Alex. And I introduced her to our lighting console so she could control all of the lighting of the show. And I never trained her on it. I just told her a few things in the beginning and said, have fun. And by the time the show was over, she was doing a light show for people, and it was amazing to watch. So that was really cool to help her discover her passion. One of the things that I really have to work hard at is paperwork. As a creative, it's very hard for me to stay focused on a lot of things like that. And those mundane-ish tasks, we have to get through them. But I just know that if I don't do those things, I'm not going to be able to really help students have those light bulb moments where they enjoy what they're doing, which in turn gives me that energy back to handle some of those things that I don't necessarily love.
Yeah, I really like that, Paul. That's an honest, piece of you recognizing the creative side of you. I want to dive into that even more. When you look at that creative side of you, what's the typical day for you? I think it's very just awesome that you have this music love and you get to be a professor of music as well. So I guess walk us through maybe a typical day or a typical week in your college role and how that kind of uses the music love that you have as well, Paul.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So basically, college is a little bit different than high school when it comes to not having a 9 to 5 schedule for our students. So that means that our students might be in a class with me for an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes one day. The next day, they might not be in class with me at all. They might have meetings with me. So a typical day is going to be somewhere where I come in about 8 in the morning, and I will start getting my day going by answering emails, making sure that any phone calls need to be returned. I'm trying to get my day planned out where I'm as most effective as I possibly can. Students start rolling in anywhere from 10 o'clock in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, typically throughout the day. But I do teach 3 classes currently, and then I have internships that I oversee as well. So I have a lot of different moving parts. Plus, I'm also on a lot of university committees where that takes a chunk out of my day, as well as being a husband and a dad and a pet owner, which my dogs require a lot of time too. So trying to find a healthy balance between all those things and coaching hockey and playing in 2 bands and recording in the studio, is serving on the Festival of the Arts Board. It is a crazy, crazy life. I love it, but I have to really, really try to stay focused on a calendar,
Yeah.
not only on paper, but also on my phone and also on my computer. Because let me just tell you, you can run sideways real quick if you start getting me talk about music.
Yeah. And Paul, you and I had the chance a little bit before the start of this interview to look at kind of really the rarity of 20 plus years
Right.
for you being an instructor at Ferris. Can you talk a little bit about maybe that journey? You have, positively shown there's a lot of balance to your current career. You have other items outside of the career path, your family, your pets, coaching, all these other aspects that you're able to do. Talk a little bit about that journey, because I think our listeners will be able to kind of understand the growth of your role and your career path right there at Ferris.
Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. I think the first thing that I that I've never been good at, and if you're not going to be good at something, I really want you to not be good at settling. Do not settle for second best. What that means is I started at Ferris as an admissions officer. And that's really rare because I had a couple of my colleagues that I've worked with that were here in our meeting just today, and they were saying, "Oh my goodness, it's so cool that you're a faculty member." Well, I was an admissions officer. I was a recruiting officer for not only the College of Business but the College of Engineering Technology. I kept learning. I was curious. I I I earned the respect of my colleagues and started getting promotions because of my work ethic. I was not afraid of a challenge, as foolish as that can be sometimes. But I would say yes, right? Can you do this? Well, yes, I can. Even if I didn't, because I knew that I would have to figure it out. And I did figure it out. So I went to, after being a senior recruiting officer here in the College of Business and in the College of Engineering Technology on Ferris's campus, I actually came into being a director of admissions and then an interim director of financial aid, which I didn't know much about financial aid. I had to learn everything. So every step of the way, I'm still learning. I'm still striving, and I'm not settling. After financial aid, I became a internship program director here in the College of Business. Again, learning about the internship process and how it can really benefit students towards getting hired. It was an amazing opportunity. I did that for 4 years. Then the gentleman that was in the program that I'm currently in told me that he was too tired. He needed to step away and just focus on teaching rather than running a program and teaching. And I put my hat in the ring for it, was fortunate enough to get it. 8 years later, here I am. So the moral of the story is I didn't settle. I kept working, I kept learning, and I kept striving to be the best that I could. And that's something that I wasn't waiting for people to tell me to do it. I had to figure out that there's no free lunch. If I wanted to eat, I wanted to make sure that it was me that was driving my success. And that's what I've done.
Well, Paul, I really appreciate you sharing the diversity of your paths. I mean, financial aid, admissions office, you really got to know, though, the full scope of Ferris. You understand the college campus and all that comes with it. And so I think for our listeners out there, it's a great example of, career paths aren't always linear. They take us on different spots sometimes within great institutions like a college or a manufacturing business or education. I think many of us on the screen, if we're adults in the room, are looking at it and going, yeah, we took a lot of different stops to get where we are now, and we absolutely enjoy it. Paul, I want to ask you a couple of things. What are some myths about college and maybe college music instruction, if you can kind of hit those a little bit?
Yeah, one of the big ones is for our program, we're the only one in the state of Michigan in a college of business. So our students earn a bachelor's degree in business, heavily flavored in marketing, but we also built into the curriculum a specialized concentration of either a certificate or minor where students could pick up project management or public relations or advertising or digital marketing, all of these different areas, these skills that go along with the degree, but it never in any shape or form says that you have to be a musician to be in our program. So that is a myth. If people have ever said, hey, you need to play music in order to come into the music and entertainment business program, not true. The other piece of it is that when it comes to demographics, I probably have more females in our program than males. And number one, as a male who's completely set and comfortable in his ways, I will tell you that women are typically more organized than the guys when it comes to things, and they end up actually working with a lot of bands as tour managers and the ones that actually work at record labels and do all the fun things. So it's a really kind of a cool thing, but don't ever think that young women professionals can't do things, because I tell you what, our students here will light it up.
Yeah. Paul, can you speak to that? I think even myself coming into this interview, I thought solely musician from the player side. Whereas what you're highlighting is there is a whole industry, which we should know, but there's a whole industry behind the scenes. Can you highlight maybe some of those that, and you just referenced some, but maybe go through some of those that maybe some of our listeners just might not know of within the music industry?
Sure. Well, the first thing is a songwriter. We can't have a famous musician without a famous song, right?
Right,
So
right.
songwriting is a big deal. Also, the people who manage those writers, you have artists that are on the road and they're putting on performances, but yet they have people that are their road managers. They're keeping them on pace for where they need to go with their radio interviews and doing publicity, writing articles about them, social media coverage. Oh my gosh, it's like so many bands have social media content creators out with them right now, and they're putting everything out on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook for us old people, right?
Yep.
They're doing all of these things to promote the business of music. We could have the most amazing, we could have Beyonce come to Ferris State University. And if she just showed up in her bus and got off in the middle of campus, no one would know that she was here.
Yeah.
That's not music. That's someone who just showed up. We need to have a stage. We need to have sound equipment, lighting. We need to have tickets sold. We need to have security. you know, everything that goes into putting on a concert, that's what our students do here. So it really is the business of music, but it's also more than that, because our degree is so flexible that if a student needs to step away from that music business piece, they're heavily armed with marketing and management experience where they can have an entry level experience in either marketing or management and be hired right off the bat.
Paul, I'm going to stick with that theme a little bit. Then I'm going to loop back to maybe some personal career paths that you've taken as well. What is your perception as far as the job outlook for these careers? We might have people on the screen that are going, boy, I really am intrigued by what Paul has just said. As a professor that can land me right within some of those tours or music scenes that I want. Talk a little bit about the outlook for jobs within this profession.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's so many cool things that you can do with this. And I will tell you, out of every time that the music industry has faced an adversity or a crisis, it's come back stronger. And when I say that, I'm going to talk about, you know, compact discs, right? CDs. If any of you have ever heard of a compact disc, right? A CD or a vinyl record, that's become kind of hip these days. Streaming came in, and oh my goodness, no one is going to buy physical product anymore, which is true. A lot of people aren't buying it, but it's led to a lot of other revenue streams. So the pandemic has the COVID pandemic really upset a lot of things, and it made a lot of people in the industry that were in it for a long time rethink their positions and maybe take up real estate. I have several friends that did that. So what I'm trying to say is that it's created a lot of new opportunities for students to do things. And I will tell you that if you are young, have energy, and I'm looking for a picture here that I'd like to share with you. You can do so many things in this industry. And I just got back about 2 weeks ago from a cruise that I took with 5 of our students, where they sold merchandise on a floating, like a ship on the middle of the ocean. And I'm going to share my screen so you can see just a little bit of this. I think this will give you a little bit of excitement of the music industry here. So think of us in the middle of the ocean, and here we are, in this big rock and roll festival on this ship. But I've had our students that were selling merchandise on this ship, and as you can see here, if I can blow this up, this is one of our students. This is Al that I was telling you about that was doing the lighting. And in this merchandise store, not only did I have 5 students, including my daughter, working, she's in public relations and music business here at Ferris, but we did in sales on this ship $383,000 in merch sales.
Wow.
So
this is the floating company.
It is the business of music, and my relationships with people that I had from over 30 years ago really made this happen. And this is my 10th cruise that I've done, but this was the first year I was able to actually bring 5 students with me on the ship.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. Paul, I want to circle back to maybe some of the personal sides for you. What was maybe a mistake that you learned from, just career-wise, where you went, yep, that was a mistake, but how did you adjust from it? Because I think young men and women are, really looking out and going, boy, I want to avoid mistakes, but sometimes mistakes are where we learn the most. If you can speak to maybe one mistake that you go, yep, learned a great deal from that, but it also changed the trajectory of my career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not proud of it, but I did hurt someone. I hurt someone's feelings pretty bad with this, and I learned a big lesson because of it. So I was at Sony Music in Nashville as one of the major recording labels, record labels there, and I was in college radio promotions. So what we would do is we would work with new artists and try to get people to play their music on the radio. And I stayed after because of my work ethic. I stayed after, I worked longer hours. I did everything that I could. And I found out that I really wanted to be promoted in the company and have people understand that I was good. So I sort of went after the person who was my direct report, the person that I reported to as my supervisor, and studying what she was doing or not doing. And I capitalized on it and actually turned in a lot better results than what she was doing. And I was really proud to go to the bigger boss of the company and tell him look what I'm doing. I can't believe that you're paying this girl to do this when I can do this so much better than her. And I'm staying later than she is. And I'm doing all these things. And I thought that it would be a real good thing to do because it would show how hungry I am for that experience and how much I really wanted to be working there. Well, it came back to bite me pretty bad because that individual was really good friends with this person's boyfriend. And that boyfriend told the supervisor, and the next thing I know, I'm in hot water and getting yelled at really bad. And then I was demoted down to doing menial tasks with no recognition whatsoever. So what I thought would be something that would show that I'm a really great employee and that I can do a great job really ended up hurting me because I sabotaged someone else. And I have since learned, back then I learned that I did wrong, and I took ownership for it. And I went and apologized to this individual and let her know that I was really sorry about doing it. I just really wanted to get ahead. It wasn't personal, but I learned that jeopardizing relationships for getting ahead was something that was not going to help me.
And I appreciate that honesty, Paul. I think that's a really great example of relationships matter within your career path. You
Yep.
never know who's networked with whom, and you want to make sure that you really do your best to put your best foot forward and not stand on others or try and shame others. That's a great example for those that are on the Zoom call today. Just a reminder of character within the workplace. Paul, I want to highlight maybe for our high school students, what activities or experiences would you encourage a high school student on the call today to do in preparation for this career? Let's say they're really intrigued by what you've said today. What can they do in this maybe sophomore, junior, senior year to really be prepped and ready to go for the best college experience, or maybe jumping right into a career lane that has this associated with it?
Yeah, great question. I think honestly, going to music performances and just looking around and seeing what's happening other than the performance on the stage.
Mm.
My mom told me at a very early age, I was always fascinated by the entire scope of the event. And my wife the same way. She says, "Why can't you just focus on the concert?" I said, "Well, I am. I'm focusing on not only the concert, but I'm focusing on what's going on the side with these musicians and everything else." For sophomores and juniors, what I would say is, if you have any interest in this business whatsoever, please talk to me. I promise I won't bite and I won't force you into signing anything. But I would just encourage any student who'd like to come up here and see what we have going on campus. It'd be great to have you shadow with some of our other students, and you can see how it really is to be a college student in our program and what we're all about. You learn so much by being involved, but question everything. Don't just take someone's word for it. You have to make sure that you put your own worth in there, because you have an opinion and you're just as justified as anyone to be entitled to that opinion. So you have to form one with all of the knowledge that you can get. And that means making a visit to that college, talking to professionals, and know that there are people here and in most educational institutions that really want to see students be successful. So with that being said, we're still hungry here for students as far as wanting to see you professional. I've got one coming in on Thursday that was a student that was undecided when she was here, always wanted, she started talking about working live events, and now she is running a big part of the Faster Horses event that's going to be in Brooklyn, Michigan, which is a big country music festival. And this is a young lady who didn't come from the best supportive background. And now she is doing something incredible with her life because she was willing to put herself out there, learn more about it, and actually find people to help support her rather than tell her she couldn't do it.
Paul, I think that's a great example for all of us. Continue to ask questions. I think ironically, we live in a very connected world, but sometimes we just don't ask thoughtful questions, or we feel like we're going to annoy Paul if we ask the question, when in reality, those questions lead to direction. They lead to conversation that you really thrive in. Paul, I want to honor your, professor status at Ferris and just say, what makes Ferris stand out? Why is it so special to you that you've been there for 20 years on your career path? Maybe there's a student on the screen that's really looking at this and considering Ferris. What makes Ferris stand out to you, Paul?
You know, the one thing is the relationships that I have with students. It's not a one-way transaction. For example, I'll give you this. It's like if you take an accounting class, and I'm not putting that down in any way, we all need it, right? But you only see that instructor twice a week. Okay. In my curriculum, I know our students so well that I can tell when they're having a bad day, and they can tell when I'm having a bad day. And those relationships is what really puts students on the trajectory of success, because I know their work ethic and I know that they're going to be able to perform in a high pressure environment. I will back them up 100%. And it's really unique to have people that still work in the profession teaching your classes. We don't just read books here and regurgitate information to you. I'm actually in the music industry. I'm a musician. I play in 2 bands. I record in the studio. I'm not just telling you about fantasy land or fairy tales. I'm giving you the real information. And it's an eye opener for me every day, because I get to learn about music that I'm not always in the most in tune with, and that would be rap music. But my students will educate me, you know, and I can always try to find something good in every type of music that I hear.
Well, that's fantastic, Paul. And I just want to honor your time here today. We close out at 4 o'clock here. So for those of you that are on the Zoom, you don't have to stay past 4 for your sketchies. I might keep Paul on here just a little bit longer. If any of you have questions within the career chat, I'm moderating it right now. Paul has put up his email up there, Paul Kwant, ferris.edu. I can tell you, as a principal of a tech center, Ferris does a phenomenal job of engaging students, engaging career paths. So just really appreciate Paul coming on here today. I'm going to share just a couple of pieces on the screen here on my end. So one, if I can get this up here, again, pardon my newness to this, right?
Hey, look at that.
Want to say thank you, Paul. Also, if any of you have further questions, My Next Move is a great career platform to just talk about next career paths, some of those other types of options that are available to you, gives you considerations. Paul talked about that at the start. Creative card writer was not part of what Paul wanted to do. And yet when he saw creative and other attributes, this was a great way to stimulate the music and start another career journey that really has led him on quite the career path at Ferris and beyond. And so these are some of those My Next Move slides that are there, some personality indexes, some of those other types of items. 2024 career chats are going to be continued to be scheduled. Don't hesitate to look for those. And again, if you have questions on career chats, Krista Harmon traditionally does these. She was working the polls today for the primary, so I gladly said I would step in on that front. So again, appreciate all of you being here today. Paul, can't thank you enough. I'm going to jump on camera just because I believe in eye-to-eye contact, but
Thank you.
just really, really thankful for your time, the way that you laid out your career path, and just the love that you have of what you do and the honesty of paperwork within your career. I love that from a creative on that side. So
Well, one of the things I say, you know, in a job interview, it's like, what is your biggest weakness? You say,
yeah,
you know what, I'm trying to improve every single day. I'm being organized.
yeah,
Are you gonna fault me
yeah.
for that? No, I'm trying every day to get better.
Yep, I'm working to improve. Well, those of you that are on the screen that are checking out, appreciate all of you. I see we still have a number of you on the screen. Paul, again, thank you. Next time I'm up at Ferris in March, I'm going to make sure to stop by.
Yeah, please come see us.
I will do that. And any of the rest of you that are looking at colleges, or maybe this spurred some ideas, boy, don't hesitate to take a tour of Ferris. Reach out to Paul if you're heading up there. Knowing the Ferris instructors and their interaction, boy, they do a great job. So,
Well, thank you.
well, I am going to stop recording here.